It's been 2 years since I lost him. 2 years of trying to figure out how to keep moving, how to make a life for my son and me. Losing Ben was like being ripped apart, and I didn't know if I'd ever feel normal again. But life kept going, even if I didn't feel ready to be a single mom. I just had to keep getting up every day for Jamie's sake. I had to be there for him somehow. After Ben's death, things changed in ways I didn't expect. Some days it feels like there's this presence in the house. I know it sounds weird. I thought I was just making it up in my head, that maybe it was my mind's way of dealing with the grief. But it's real. Or at least it feels real to me. It started off small. I'd noticed things out of the corner of my eye. A shadow or a figure, just barely visible, usually lurking in the dim corners of the room. I convinced myself it was nothing, just exhaustion playing tricks on me. But as the months went by, it got worse. It was like every time I started to feel just a little bit okay, that shadow would reappear, reminding me that I'd never really escaped the grief. One night, after I'd finally put Jamie to bed, I was sitting on the couch, trying to relax, watching a show just to feel the silence. Then I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, right by the hallway leading to the bedrooms, a tall, dark figure, just standing there, like it was watching me. My heart raced, and I sat frozen, not daring to look directly at it. I could feel my throat tighten, that old panic rising up, but when I finally turned my head to look, nothing. Just the empty hallway. But I knew what I'd seen, and I could feel it, this suffocating sense that I wasn't alone. Jamie's been affected too. My sweet boy, who used to be so full of energy, he's changed. It's like he's carrying something too heavy for a kid to bear, and I know it's because he feels the loss, just like I do. Some nights, he wakes up screaming, telling me he saw the shadowman in his room. I don't tell him about what I've seen. I don't want to scare him more. But I can't help but wonder if he's seeing the same thing I am. That shadowman lurking in our home, like a constant reminder of what we lost. There was one night I can't forget. It was after a long, exhausting day. Jamie had been acting up, his temper flaring in ways I hadn't seen before. I put it down to him being overtired, but as I was trying to calm him down, he looked right at me and said, "The shadowman is mad at us." The way he said it, so matter-of-factly, it chilled me. I tried to tell him it was just a bad dream, that shadows couldn't hurt us, but he shook his head. "He's mad because you're sad, Mommy." Hearing that from him, I didn't know what to say. I felt this wave of guilt crash over me, like somehow I was making things worse for Jamie. The grief, the sadness I tried to hide from him. Maybe it was showing up in ways I didn't even realize. But what could I do? I didn't know how to make this shadow, this feeling go away. It was like it was feeding off my pain, growing darker every time I broke down or let the sadness creep in. After that, it started happening more. I'd be doing the dishes, just minding my own business, and I'd feel that prickle on the back of my neck. I'd look up, and there it would be, a dark figure in the doorway, almost daring me to come closer. Every instinct told me to look away, to ignore it, but the more I tried, the closer it seemed to get. Sometimes it felt like it was right behind me, breathing down my neck. I'd find myself clutching the sink, my heart pounding, praying it would just disappear. Jamie's nightmares got worse too. He'd wake up screaming, and when I'd rush into his room, he'd be covering under the covers, pointing to the corner where he'd said the shadowman stood, watching him. I didn't know how to make it stop, how to help him or even help myself. I tried everything, keeping lights on, playing soothing music, even leaving a little nightlight on in his room. Nothing worked. That shadow, that presence, it was always there, lurking, feeding off of us. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I was sitting in the living room, lights on, trying to pretend everything was okay, when I felt it again. That cold, heavy feeling. I looked up, and there it was, closer than ever, right by the door to the basement. This time, though, I couldn't look away. I felt this sudden surge of anger, this need to do something, anything, to protect Jamie and myself from this thing that was haunting us. So I got up slowly and started walking towards it. My hands were shaking, but I kept going. The closer I got, the darker the figure seemed to become, until it was almost like a shadow made of smoke, twisting and curling in the dim light. I opened the basement door, and for a moment I thought it was gone. But when I looked down, I saw it right there at the bottom of the stairs. It felt like a confrontation, like it was daring me to face it downstairs. I took a deep breath and walked down, not daring to look back until I reached the bottom. The basement was cold, darker than usual, even with the lights on. But as I looked around, I saw the figure all around me, watching me with an intensity I can't describe. I felt this weight settle over me, like it was pushing me down, draining every bit of strength I've had. With one burst of courage, I started making my way back upstairs, slammed the basement door shut, trapping the figure on the other side. I locked it, my hands shaking, my breath coming in short gasps. I don't know if it's really gone, if that even did anything, but it felt like a small victory. Like for once I'd taken control, even if only for a little while. Jamie still has nightmares sometimes, and I still feel that heavy presence every now and then, like it's lurking just beyond the door, waiting. But somehow it feels manageable now. I don't know if that shadow was ever real, or if it was just a reflection of the grief and guilt that's been haunting me since Ben died. Maybe it is something I will have to deal with for the rest of my life, like a scar that never fully heals. I've learned to live with it, to accept that some days will be harder than others, that the shadow might always be there, lurking in the basement. But for Jamie, I keep going. I keep pushing forward, reminding myself that I can be stronger than whatever darkness tries to pull us down. And every night, I make sure that basement door is locked tight.